Hello and welcome, everybody. I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what I call the volume value chart. Okay, so we're just going to look at this to see what kind of value service you should have, meaning the price of your service, and how you want to plan out your client volume. What kind of volume are you going for? How many clients do you want to work with? In today's video, we're going to really help you kind of strategize the long term trajectory and where you want to begin, where you want to end when it comes to your business with these two aspects. Go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe, share the video. I hope this is helpful for you. So, if you notice down in the bottom left, you've got the start. Okay. I'm almost thinking about this as like starting in Monopoly or something, just because it's a square board. But you got the start right there. And in the blue box, where most people begin in a private practice, they probably are charging lower prices for their appointments and they probably don't have a whole lot of clients, right? If you're a massage therapist or any other kind of health practitioner, you start your private practice, you're renting an office, maybe part time, you've got like a handful of clients you're working with. Maybe you're not charging a whole lot of money for your appointments. Typically, you're not charging a lot, so you're not making a lot as well. You also don't have a lot of clients, so you don't really have that volume of income from the clients. So we kind of are low in both categories. If you go to the box to the right, that's going to be the yellow box. Now we have a category where you can still have lower clientele, but you're charging a higher price. Now, you might want to move in this direction for several different reasons. If you are doing your practice and you're just trying to keep it part-time. You don't want to be doing 5 days a week or even 6 days a week. You don't want to be doing like 8 to 10-hour days with clients. You want to keep things really minimum, just like a handful of clients, maybe a couple days a week, but then you're going to raise your prices. And the trick with this is that if you have higher prices, you're naturally going to attract less people. So you're probably going to have less people applying to actually come in and see you anyway. So you're going to make it so that you're naturally kind of weeding out certain parts of the population just by having higher prices. Now, you could end right here. You could go high price, low volume, and you could stay there long term if you want to. And there's plenty of people in the world of massage therapy who do this specifically. Now, the other route is if you go north, so you go from blue up to red. Now, if you go to higher volume clientele and you keep your prices really low, there's some pros and cons to this. Pro of this is that you're going to get a lot of experience. If you keep those prices low, you're probably going to attract more people in. You're going to get more appointments with the same people. You're just going to get busy. And this can be really beneficial if you're new to the world of massage therapy, if you're a younger practitioner, if you really want to get that experience, you want to practice your skills. This can also be beneficial just because the more people who experience your work, the more you get word of mouth spread, the more Google reviews you get, the more you get known. It's easier to kind of get busier when you're already busy. So you get a lot of just reputation building when you have a high volume clientele. The tricky part, though, is that then if you try to shift over to the green, which is usually where if you're trying to do a full time income in massage therapy, you kind of want to end up over there eventually, where you're charging high prices and you have a lot of clientele. If you want to shift from red over to green, the tricky part is that as soon as you raise your prices, you're going to lose a lot of that clientele. A lot of people are not going to want to stick with you. And so you might take a hit and almost shift from the red back down to the yellow. And this is the tricky part. It's not hard for people to move out of the blue. You might be there for like a year or two when you first start, but eventually you can probably move yourself over to red, over to yellow, and really that determines or what determines shifting over to one or the other usually is kind of how you're doing your marketing, how you're doing your pricing, if you have a high price, if you have a low price. The real trick is how do you move from either red to green or from yellow to green? How do you get to that end green box, right? That's the tricky part. Because if you're in the red category, eventually you're going to get burnt out. You're going to say, you know what? I've been doing a lot of work with these people for a long time and I don't want to be broke anymore, right? I'm tired of beating up my body to make people feel better. I want to make a little bit more money. and you're going to want to shift over and start raising prices. Sometimes in the yellow category, you say, hey, this has been good. I like working with people, but again, I want to make more money. How do I build this thing bigger? How do I get more of those people in the door, right? And that's the real trick. How do we shift over from one to the other? Well, I want to say that right off the bat, I think shifting from red to green is easier than shifting from yellow to green. And here's why. If you already have a lot of people, you can build that reputation, your Google reviews, you can build testimonials, your name gets a lot bigger, a lot faster. So, reaching that target clientele who have more money is easier to do. Not only that, but in order to, when you raise prices on people, some people are going to decide, okay, this isn't for me, and they want to leave. But if you're really supplying a really good value, people might say, you know what, even though it just raised $30, whatever it is, or maybe you're slowly raising it, $10 each year or something like that, people might stick around just because they realize it's good. It's something that I want to stick with. And people might have even thought before, you know what? I feel like this should be worth more. And in their minds, they just were thinking that, but they weren't telling you. When I first started my practice several years ago, I started off charging people $70 an hour. And most of my clients very quickly said, oh, dude, I thought it was going to be more. I would come to the end of the appointment. Okay, let me have your card, and you charge it. And sometimes people, they didn't know what the price was beforehand. Most people did, but sometimes people didn't. And then, oh yeah, how much is the appointment, by the way? Now that we're paying, and you slice their card through. Oh, it's $70. And they'd go, whoa, only 70? Okay, sweet deal. It's like you could tell you lowballed it, like they thought it was going to be way more. So that tells you something. It tells you, oh, this appointment is more valuable than I'm charging right now. I could raise my prices and this person would probably stick with me. So, now I charge a whole lot more, but at the time, I kept my prices really low and I built volume really, really quickly. And I used the route of going through red to build reputation, to get a lot of clientele, to get reviews, to get known. And then each year, my strategy was that I just raised prices by $10 every year. And so now I have a full time practice and I'm charging high prices with people. And so that's keeping me really busy and it's making good money. If you go the yellow route, the tricky part with the yellow route is just that you've basically exchanged you've exchanged money for time, right? So you're basically making more money with less people. So you have more time on your hands, but now you need to get more people. And the trick with this is that instead of working and using word of mouth and reputation and referral and networking to get more clients, you probably need to use that extra time to show that you're valuable. You need to show people, you know what, I'm worth what I'm charging. And this is probably where you just need to spend a lot more time and energy into your marketing. And I would say this is probably going to be more of your social media marketing, but this needs to be something where you're showing people what you do. You're showing people what my service is, what I offer is worth this much money. You could spend this much money on me and an hour of my time because this is the stuff I'm doing. And let me educate you and explain to you and show you why that's worth more than what you could currently be paying for. You basically have to educate clients and teach them and show them why it's worth more. And then you need that content or that marketing, however that is, to reach the people who have that money who are looking for your service. So with yellow, if you want to switch from yellow to green and you want to build your practice and increase your client volume, you basically need to take that extra time that you have and probably extra money if you have it, and you got to spend it all into that marketing to find those people and then use that to try to build up the volume and get into the green. Now, I don't want to try to pressure people like you have to end at the green. You could just stay in the yellow box your entire career if you're happy with that. And that way you're making money and basically a high paying part time job. And for a lot of people, that could be a great place. You want to start there, you want to end there. But typically, you don't want to stay in the blue box and you don't really want to stay in the red box. That's where you're not going to make good money and you're probably going to beat yourself up and hurt your body and get burnt out in the long run. That's my overview. I have the value and the volume chart here. I hope that helps you with some strategic business decisions with your private practice. Remember, like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.